All right, so one, thank you everybody for joining us today. Two, thank you for being great and wonderful about me being a minute late. So we're going to talk a little bit about leading with influence today. So just to kind of kick things off, for those of you who don't know me, which is probably about half of the room, hi, I'm Will. Currently I'm a product marketing manager for our business management suite of products at ConnectWise. And I lead our go-to-market strategy for in execution really for all of the products in my portfolio. Now I've been in sales and marketing for roughly 20 years at this point. And during that career, I've spent a lot of my time as either a people leader, a business leader, or through influencing individual contributor. So I spend a lot of my time doing individual contributor work these days. Now, I'm also one of those people who believes that part of that journey that you take in life is the quest for eternal betterment. And with that, we can, really always strive to be better at what we do, learn things we can't do, and, hone all of those skills that we have. Now, in that regard, I'm a big fan of leadership development programs. So internally at ConnectWise, we have a number of year-long programs designed to grow everything from that aspiring emerging leader all the way through to the director and vice president level. So if you ever come across courses like that, either in your work or in communities, I'm a big fan of you joining those. So, recommend them, jump in on them, whatever you can. I'm gonna take a minute and catch my breath because I ran here.
How do you know? Talk about the minifigs.
Right? Yeah, always minifigs. All of the minifigs. So, as let's face it, all too often, we believe that the way to lead, or we see people that believe that the way to lead is through authority. There's people that use their power to and position and role in the company to do things like force decisions or exert their thoughts on their teams, right? They like to pull title, like to pull rank, hierarchy, et cetera, to really control the actions of others. Often this looks like giving directives, enforcing things like decisions, or really making those decisions with little or no impact or input from their staff, right? Anybody ever worked with somebody like that? Yeah, probably. I think we all have at some point. Now, it's really that carrots and sticks mentality when you think about it. Hey, here's the carrot to do so that you'll do what I want you to do. And here's the stick I'm going to hit you with if you don't take the carrot. So, we've all run across people like that, and was it a great experience whenever all of us have worked for somebody like that? Yes, no, maybe, no. I see some heads and eyes going, oh, that's good. Now, you think about it though, but really, was it a great work environment? Did people succeed? Was there a lot of stress? Yeah, there was. Congratulations, you had a boss, not a leader. So what is leadership really, and what's leading with influence? Well, let's talk a little bit about that as we go through these agenda items today. Now, according to the Cambridge Dictionary here, there are definitions, these are the definitions of leadership and influence. So leadership, as you can read on the screen, it's that quality or ability that makes a person a leader or the position of being a leader. Influence is the power to affect how someone thinks or behaves or how something develops. So what happens if we combine the two together, right? Something magical happens. And no, we're not talking My Little Pony here. Leading with influence is really where you start to center around guiding others and inspiring them with things like your ideas and your values. Not with carrots and sticks. So anyone can do it. That's the best part about leading with influence here. It doesn't require you to have any sort of formal authority, which is nice because sometimes being able to lead up is a good thing. It involves things like building strong relationships here and building solid credibility. Really those things that help build lasting trust so that others can willingly follow your lead. That's one of the key points here. It focuses on things like collaboration, persuasion, and empowerment. And it's also more of a sustainable and brings meaningful change to organizations by leveraging things like people's natural motivation and commitment rather than just obedience. This slide here take a picture of it. This is the most important thing you need to know about leading with influence. Trust. Trust is the most important thing. Without trust, you have none of the other items you're going to need to be able to successfully lead through influence. Now, based off of what I mentioned so far, I want to do a quick poll with all of you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel like you're leading with influence right now? Now, 10 being like, hey, I'm an influence ninja, right? 1 being me lead with influence, I might have accidentally joined the wrong session. So, congratulations, you all hopefully have 10 fingers. And hold those things up on where you think you are, where you fall into the spectrum. Yes, this is interactive, congratulations. Now, if you have less than 10 fingers, or you just really like writing things down, feel free to write down a number and hold it up on a piece of paper, or hold up how many fingers you need to get to your number. So, all right, I see some 7s. I see Ray's a 10 up here, I love it. All right, I see, look, we got some decent scores here. All right, good. That's what I like to see. Now, let's kind of talk through that here. I like to see, that you guys are all, like, yeah, we're working on it. We're leading with influence. Let's go through it and let's talk about how we can hone those skills a little bit, right? Now, question for everybody. How many of you want to enjoy your work? There all the hands are. All right, good. How many of you want to enjoy the people you work with? Yeah, good. We're all on the right track. You're all in the right session. Congratulations. Now, let me ask you, do you think that people are going to stick around long if their options are carrot or stick? No? Yeah, you're correct. Now, who's currently a leader on their team in your company? All right, good. It's like 2/3 of you. Fantastic. That's great. If there's 2/3 who didn't answer their leader, how many of you guys like promotions? All right, good. I see hands. That's what we want. We want you to want promotions. Now, leading with influence is going to help in every one of those situations we just talked about here. So if you're currently a leader, guys, let's face it, turnover is expensive. It is more expensive than we really realize if we really want to dig into that. A team that trusts their leadership is always more effective than a team that doesn't. If you're a new leader, this also helps cement your leadership in a positive manner and really helps you build a reputation as you're climbing that ladder. If you're looking for that promotion or even a raise, being a good leader helps you stand apart. It's something that's noticed. So before we start looking at dollar signs though, and how we can use this to our advantage, guys, we need to take a look in the mirror first. Now, theoretically, and I think we all had these situations before, when we have that teammate, they show up, they do their job, right? They're great at their job, they're awesome. And sometimes they might let you know how awesome they are. They'll be like, look at that, on top of the leaderboard, great. And then they go home. And that's really all they do, right? How much impact does that person have on their team? Not much, right? They're doing their weight, pulling their weight just like everybody else on the team. Now, what about when you have a teammate that's showing up every day as a true team player? They're still doing what's expected, but they're also, stepping in when there's high priority issues. They're answering questions and coaching new hires, right? They're always proposing things like new solutions and ideas to issues that we're having internally. Now, let's say a manager position opens up, right? And both of those teammates apply. Who's trying to self-promote? Who's working towards making an impact? And who do you think is going to be the better choice? Is it going to be guy A or guy B? Or person A or person B? Yeah, exactly. So what do you think is going to be the different with the leadership styles of those two individuals? Leadership is all about give and take. This is where we need to change our mindsets a little bit, because if we're only looking inwardly, you're not seeing the huge amount of insights that can come from things outside of your own mind. All right, so how do you become the second person instead of the first one, right? Any ideas? Throw them out there. I want to hear what you guys think.
Spend time with your people.
It's a good one.
Be open-minded.
Open-minded, excellent.
Listen.
That's a good one.
Make space for them to give their ideas.
That's a phenomenal one. You got to. Absolutely. Great one.
If you work a really big issue, work with them, get in with them, don't tell them what to do it with them.
Man, you guys are great. Why are you in my session? You should be leading this session. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's really, it's getting the things out of the way, right? Yeah. Letting them make their discoveries. Now,
Letting them fail too.
letting them fail too. That's another big one. I mean, yeah, these are all great ways to really encourage growth. Now, everything you guys just said were awesome. And guess what? They can all fit into these 4 topics right here. When you boil it down, it really only takes 4 things. Simple, right? Nah, it's not that simple. These 4 things are honestly pretty complex and take some work to be able to master. So putting in the work, however, this is going to reward you with both a skill set that will serve you in your job and outside of your job. So let's kind of talk through all of this. This here, most important thing, as I mentioned earlier, trust. Trust is the foundation for literally everything when you're working towards leading through influence and not carrot and stick. So it's that foundation that the rest of everything is built on. If your team can't trust you, why would anything else that you try to do resonate with them? Ask yourself that question. If they can't trust you, why would anything else work? Your team might be wildly diverse, right? You know, you might have people come from everywhere, and you might look at some of your team members and go, yeah, I have nothing in common with this person. Surprise, I bet you do. If you sit there and you try to find it, you will find common ground with just about anything, and that will allow you to start connecting with people. And that connection is really where you start to change things. Other thing is listen to what they're saying. Ask questions. Get to the bottom of things. You know, what people usually say first, this is, you know, not what the actual root of an issue is. So one of the problem-solving techniques I really love to use is called the 5 whys, if you're familiar with it. I love using it. It really helps to get the root cause of, well, just about everything. And, you know, whenever I, found it, I was like, all right, I'm going to try this out. Surprised it works. Think about it. How many times have we all jumped to a conclusion and slapped a Band-Aid on this thing? And we're like, oh yeah, no, this is totally the problem, Band-Aid, right? And we're like, we're done. And then shortly after that, something else pops up. And you're like, well, what happened? What's this? Band-Aid. And suddenly, it takes time and you go, oh man, these things were all caused by this thing over here that we didn't even think about. How much time did you spend patching those Band-Aids? How much effort did you spend trying to plug that little bitty hole, right? This is where 5 whys is so important. So one of the things I love is the Lincoln Memorial story. For those of you that are familiar, I see Ray over here smiling, so I'm sure you're familiar with this. I love this story because it really kind of outlines why it's so important. So the Lincoln Memorial had an issue a number of years ago where it was starting to deteriorate. And they got everybody together and said, hey, all right, why is the Lincoln Memorial deteriorating? And someone spoke up and was like, well, it's because of all the harsh chemicals that we're using to keep it clean. Well, it's a quick solution, easy, right? Just go ahead and stop using those harsh chemicals. Well, why were they using them? Well, they're using them because they needed to clean all of the bird droppings off of the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, cool. So we just, need to get rid of the birds? No, it doesn't work like that. Fun story, why were the bird droppings there? Well, it's because all the birds were eating all of the spiders at the Lincoln Memorial. Cool, exterminate them. Nope. Why are spiders there? Well, the spiders are there because of the bugs. They're eating the bugs at the Lincoln Memorial. Still, what, just exterminate the bugs? Is that the solution and then the spiders and the birds go away? Nope. We need to figure out why the bugs are there. Why are the bugs hanging around the Lincoln Memorial of all places and not like in the bushes where they're supposed to be? Turns out the reason why was because the insects were attracted to the lights at the Lincoln Memorial. So by identifying that root cause of the lights attracting the insects, the park managers were actually able to implement a simple solution. Turn off the freaking lights or turn them off or turn them on later when the bug activity is lessened. So this resulted in fewer insects, fewer spiders, fewer birds, and significantly reduced need for harsh cleaning chemicals. If you had patched it at any other level other than that root cause, guess what you would have had? Things keep popping up. You would have poured a ton of money and time and manpower into it, when the solution for that was turn off the freaking lights. How many times have we had that happen in situations in our life, right? How many times have we looked back and gone, we just spent 70 man-hours trying to solve this issue and this wasn't even the real issue. Always get to the root cause. This helps make sure that your team is focusing on what they need to and not just putting out fires. Does that make sense? All right, I see some nods. Yeah, some of you have had that happen before. All right, so back to our trust as the foundation of everything. Relationship building is also key to building trust. Think about it from this perspective. Who's it easier to influence? Is it easier to influence your coworkers, or is it easier to influence your friends? Friends. Usually easier. Your friends might be your coworker. It's your friends, Ray. It's your friends, Ray. So yeah, usually it's easier to influence your friends than your coworkers. So what happens if you make your coworkers your friends? Guess what? It's easier to influence them. This is where building relationships is so important. And credibility is really the last piece of the puzzle around trust. If you can establish credibility, you've got a lot going for you. So I want to double click into that one as we're talking through that here. So Stephen Covey, the author of The Speed of Trust, says that there are 4 foundational elements needed to establish credibility, right? First and foremost is integrity. Integrity is being honest. It's walking your talk, not just walking the walk. Intent here has to do with ensuring your motives are clearly understood. If people don't understand what you're talking about, how are they going to understand where your credibility is coming from? Capability is the skills and knowledge necessary to perform your job well. You can talk and walk all you want, but if you're not capable, guess what you don't have? Credibility. And results are what we accomplish. This is our track record, your ability to get done what you say you will. This is, again, that foundation of trust here. So that's part of why trust is so important. The other big thing is authenticity. Now, how many times have we ever met someone who's just seemed really fake, right? Someone who always seemed like they're working an angle on someone or something. I'm pretty sure we all know somebody like this, right? An extreme egomaniac, if you will, with an overinflated sense of self-worth. How about, that guy that thinks he knows everything about everything and will loudly try to convince others that they're the smartest person around? Now, did you ever look at him and go, heck yeah, I'd follow that person. They'd be a great leader. Okay, so there are some people that apparently think that way, but hopefully we can all recognize that there's a better way to be a good leader. There's no angle. None. Just do what's best for your team. Not what's best for you, or what's going to get you noticed. Do what's best for the people around you. That's one of the key things to authenticity. Now, there's one concept I want you all to understand and really embrace it. It's not about you. It's not about you. I'm going to say it again. Leave that ego outside. Be humble. Give credit where credit's due. Be an expert. Now, what do I mean by be an expert? Don't make stuff up. Don't make assumptions. This is a fast path to hot water and losing your authenticity. If you find out, hey, I was wrong about something, own it and make it right. Communication is key to everything. Let's dig into this a little bit here. So, surprise, if you're not communicating with people, they're not going to be on board with your grand plans. Wild how that happens, right? Is anyone else in here a mind reader? I'm not. So you need to be able to look at that, and you need to be able to communicate. You need support. And leadership is not a one-person race. So understand what success looks like to the other people on your team. You need to ask them that, hey, if you're successful, what does this look like in your eyes? Because if you know that, you can start making sure that you're working in parallel, conjunction with them to get the results that you both are looking for. Get to the bottom of it. Understand what success means if they achieve it. This helps make sure you also understand how to communicate to them and make it resonate. So if you aren't making something resonate, guess what? They're not going to grab it. Clarity is incredibly important in this. So I want to double click on this a little bit. So here's a tool that I've used for a while. They taught us in one of the programs that I've been in. It's called 5-question clarity. So if you're getting brought into something, how many of you have been brought into something, halfway or 2/3 of the way through something, and you're like, all right, I'm in here, let's go, right? Well, fun story, if you aren't clear on what your role is, what success looks like, and what's available, you're going to set yourself up for failure and your team up for failure. So you have to be able to have that information and communicate that to your team so that there's alignment all around. So I want to dig into these questions a little bit real quick. First and foremost, knowing what your end goal is and what we're trying to accomplish is really the key to driving alignment and providing clarity to your teams. Because if you don't know what the end goal is, neither will anyone you try and involve. Know where you fit in. That's another big one. I mean, what happens if you get brought into something and don't actually have clarity on what your role is? Think about that one. Any thoughts? What happens in that situation?
You're gonna have too many cooks because nobody knows who's accountable.
Correct.
Hard lines.
Exactly. You've got to understand that. You've got to know where you're at. And being able to know that, make sure that you're in alignment with everyone else on that project. You know where you are, how you fit into the project, and what's really kind of expected on you. So, you've ever been brought into that project before and then not informed of, hey, what resources do you have available? Or you've just, overstepped your boundaries because you didn't know they were there. I think we've all done that before, right? Well, congrats, you've been a victim of a lack of clarity. You also have to know what's in it for you if you're successful. We're at work, we're not a charity. So success and hard work deserves recognition. Know what's in it in the end for you. And ask how you're doing. Don't get all the way to the finish line before asking this question either. I mean, it's one of those things, how many times have you seen people like, hey, we did this thing, and you look at the thing that you asked them to do, and it is 0% what you asked them to do initially. And they never checked in with you along the way, right? Ask regularly so that you can course correct along the way. Super important. I see this happen more often than I like to admit. So clarity is incredibly important. Ask those questions. Ask those of your team. If you get brought into something, start with these questions and don't ask them halfway through when you're almost to the finish line. If you're making an argument, know why you're making that argument. Don't die on a hill that you don't need to for reasons you don't actually understand. That's one that, when you think about it, how many times have you had leaders go, hey, we're doing this thing. This is what we're doing, period, end of story. Do they know why they're doing the thing? No. Probably should understand that, because if you don't understand it, no one else is going to understand it either. This is a big one, confidence. If you speak like you don't know what you're talking about, then those who communicate as if they own the room will always be heard more. You have to speak with confidence. And that takes practice. If you feel like you're not confident in what you're talking about, you need to practice it and rehearse it until you feel more confident in what you're doing. This is very, very important because the people who are usually the loudest are the ones that know the least. So make sure that you speak with confidence. All right, so emotional intelligence. It's the secret to success, right? Now, what do we mean by that? Well, again, I said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again. It's not about you. It's about your colleagues. It's about giving praise and credit to those who deserve it. Now, what you believe and about people in general and what their motivations are will impact how you lead them. Your teammates intrinsically want to perform. It's very much that mindset of assume positive intent. They want to perform. So understand first and assume that positive intent, and your teammates are going to rise to the expectations you set for them, as long as they are also communicated to early. To drive this home, did any of you know that roughly 70% of a team's effectiveness can be traced back to the manager's ability to manage? 70%. Think about that. If your manager can't manage, then the whole team's going to have issues. This is where leading with influence and leading both up and down is so important, either as an individual contributor or as a leader. You've also got to make sure that you're saying something as many times as it takes for the team to understand. So you have to take ownership of the conversation and find different ways to communicate until they understand. How many times have we seen we go out and we see, hey, here's the team meeting. Hey, here's what we're doing. Okay, everybody understands. Okay, thanks, bye. We're doing the thing, right? How many of your team actually got that? Maybe a quarter of them, maybe a fifth of them. Communicate in ways that are different so that you can reframe it as many times as possible to get buy-in and understanding from your teammates. Confirm that they understand. Because there's a good chance that if you only said something once, no one actually understands what you want from them. That's very, very important. It's not going to be the same for each of them either. One size does not fit all when it comes to communication. Now, other things are, be open to influence. Be willing to listen to others' ideas. You don't have all the answers. You never will. It is amazing whenever you look at outside perspectives on stuff, how much perspective you can gain on items. Consider alternative viewpoints. Make use of other people's skills and expertise. Again, it's not a one-person race as far as leadership goes. It's a team sport. Does that all make sense so far? Excellent. All right, so I want to just kind of touch on what I kind of consider a dark side skill, if you will. And that is understand the people that you are trying to influence. Do your research. Get to know them before you try to influence them. Once you know what they want, you can tie everything you want back to their reasons. Now, why is this important? Well, it makes it easier for you to influence them. And this is very useful when you're having to work with a carrot and stick individual as your leader. So, kind of, hey, here's how you do this. But the most important thing to remember, even as you're exerting that skill, is even then it's all about the 4 key principles, right? Still have to follow those 4 guidelines right there. Otherwise, it all comes falling down. All right, so I have one last exercise for everybody here, and I promise this one does not require fingers, just hands. Raise your hand if you feel like you went up at least 1 on that scale we used earlier and have a practical idea of one thing to do to go out and do to lead with influence. All right, I see some hands. Let's see, I'm gonna call on people I don't know. Keep your hands up, I'm gonna call on you. Yeah, you get to share because this is where we really get to start to get that outside influence. I see you've got your hand up back there. Yes, you.
So one of the things that kind of hit home to me is where we don't do a good job at setting a clear goal in a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially when we work in projects, a tech will be given a ticket to do a task, but doesn't understand what the complete project is. So giving them better insight into what the final goal is or the final outcome can help them accomplish the task.
Absolutely, that's huge. Anybody else have thoughts about how they want to put some of this into motion? I see you've got your hand up. What you got?
Well, for me, it's confidence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a really difficult time saying to my team things that need to be said. And I'm even having the difficulty right now. It's like, I know what I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't confidently convey it. So,
Yeah.
it's a hard thing for me.
I think a lot of us struggle with that. I'll be completely honest with you. I see Kyle's got it. Do you have something to add on to that one?
I struggle with it.
Okay, he struggles with it. I do. Believe me, I struggle with it all the time. I see a lot of heads nodding on that one. Anybody have any thoughts on how you can help with that skill? Like what's worked for some of you? I see hands everywhere. You haven't said anything yet.
For me, going through the tough conversations is where that started. And I have a 45-minute commute, and I would just say it the whole way home. I would turn off music. I would not listen to a podcast, whatever, and go through that conversation. I have a little bit of a neurosis of listening to what I think the person's going to say, and then, okay, well, how would I deal with that? And then just a mirror can be your best friend there. Just say it until you believe yourself saying it.
All right, Kyle Slagle, and I saw you had one back there. I'm gonna get to you too.
Yeah, kind of diving into so you believe it. I think that you really do have to believe it. You have to be passionate about it. And I think that the majority of this space in the channel is so community driven, and they really truly do want to help. So I think if you just really lean into that and you can express your passion for whatever the idea is or however you are going to be helping them, that's going to translate through rather. And that passion is just going to be like the best way to drive you through, like really being confident about it.
Absolutely, agree.
Make it an agenda item and bullet point everything you want to touch on. You don't have to write out your whole speech, but bullet point what you want to touch on at a minimum. So you don't at least forget something, even if you stumble over the whole conversation. That it helped me out a lot.
Awesome, that's a good one. Like, if you're sitting there doing it on the spot, you're gonna forget what you need to say.
Well, that's one thing, like, okay, I'm the service manager, my team is here with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had to have a talk with one of my team members this morning about something, kind of on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, deer in the headlights almost, but I got it across,
Mm-hmm.
mission accomplished, but still, I didn't feel 100% confident in what I was saying. Got fully understood.
I can definitely. So yeah, and the thing is, here's one thing that I will give you, and then I want to hear from a lot of other people in the room too, because this is really where we start to put this into effect, is listening to what other people are dealing with and how we can take that and add that to what we're doing. For me, I've had that happen before, and what I always like to do is a postmortem. Go back and look at, hey, here's what I did. How can I do this better next time? And try to put that into practice. If you wait until the next time it comes up to try and do that, guess what? You have the same problem every single time. So my recommendation, do a postmortem. Look at it and go, okay, make some notes. Sit there and practice with yourself on how you can drive that. I saw you had your hand up in the very back. I want to make sure we're calling on folks that are back there. So what? You?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to know it to be true.
Yeah.
As you can't go off confidence because subconsciously, whoever you're speaking to is going to pick up that you don't even believe in it. So if you're convinced that it's true, then you can pass it along.
Absolutely. 100% agreed.
This is not time when you're talking about humans. We're all system animals, so we know we think that we're absolutes. Humans are not absolutes. It's always the gray area. So when we deal with people, we always have that flexibility. Might not, it's good either, is there another one?
Absolutely. 100% agreed. All right. I see your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things he just said there was he wasn't sure after talking to that person that they had it. What I found helps with that is have them repeat back to you what the expectation is. Because sometimes that doesn't get it. So you want to make sure that when you're having difficult conversations, I always try to make it be a two-way conversation.
Yep.
Okay, and that way you kind of understand everybody's on the same page when you walk away. Otherwise, you may be disappointed, they're disappointed because they're trying to do what they think is right, but the communication wasn't right.
Jason Slagle.
You have a ChatGPT Pro subscription. You can use advanced voice mode seriously and have the conversations with ChatGPT.
That's actually a great idea for practicing. Like I hadn't even thought about that one. Thanks, man. Martin.
Another one for me, what helped me was, I have these, the whole imposter syndrome, or am I good enough, and all that. But then I think to myself, it can't just be me who's thinking that. It's not just me. They probably have their own demons too. And if you've not got a safe space to share what those demons are, I mean, it's a very, very vulnerable conversation to have. You've got to give them that safe space to have it in. But yeah, I just
Bless you.
Thank you.
bless you. Like, it's not just me. It's the person I'm talking to as well.
All right.
So that's like a shared kind of vibe.
All right. So to that regard, I want to just do a quick poll here. Raise your hand if you've had or frequently have imposter syndrome in your position.
All the time.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. You are not alone. None of us are alone in that. That is one of those things that, when you think you are alone, you're not.
Can I
Yeah, please.
There's a book by Bren Brown. It's called I Thought It Was Just Me, But It Wasn't, or something like that. But look up Bren Brown. I highly recommend that book. It helped me a lot. Yep.
All right. So, Elle, I see you got your hand up. Do you have one you want to share?
Yeah, so going back to the confidence thing, I think we've done a lot of like talking about how to prep for it. But in the moment, one of the things that I personally found is that I'm kind of verbose. I like to talk a lot, and so often I will talk through someone else processing what I'm saying. And so something that I've actually worked through with therapy is she's recommended, my therapist recommended, say the thing and then be okay with being quiet in that moment and let them process it. Don't talk through it, don't continue talking, don't bring up receipts and date. Well, yes, maybe there's some receipts depending on the type of thing, but like don't keep talking through it and repeating yourself and rephrasing it and making sure that's understood. Say the thing, ask what they heard, let there be time for them to process it. And space often is where confidence comes from as well. When you're able to sit in that quiet, it will be a muscle that you can practice and work in feeling more confident.
It's good call out. All right, do you have one you want to share?
I just want to
Oh, yeah.
piggyback on all that. When you're talking about having difficult conversations with employees, especially if it's like some sort of disciplinary measure, or they did something wrong, screwed up on something, have them be part of the solution. So don't go into it, you did this wrong, it should have been done this way. Ask them what they needed, what kind of support they needed to be successful. Why did it go sideways? Get that feedback from them, let them help build the solution, so that way they're more invested in improving themselves in the future.
Who knew this would go off like this?
See, this is why I like, right, this is the power of community. This is, again, you're not alone. Like, use ideas outside of your own, and hopefully this is driving that point home to everybody. Use ideas outside of your own to try and be able to build your own confidence, build your own skill set. Does anybody have any other items they want to share in the last few minutes? You have a question? All right.
How many of us, I think most people, I'm assuming, on the management position, but a lot of us, I'm assuming, you wait for it from the technical, you start out as technical. How do you reap that out of the door? When you bring the people within us, when it comes to management people, that's usually when it goes out.
I love that question, and I see Kyle Spooner raising his hand to answer that.
Don't. Embrace your technical skills. Utilize them in your management. I have been doing leadership management, non-technical work for a while now, and my technical skills have definitely atrophied. But I still have a technical background, and while I may not know the specifics, I can talk more real with those who do technical work, and I can have the one-on-one conversations and understand where they're coming from and the decisions they've made and whatever may be happening. And just keeping an open mind that you may have a technical background that you can lean into. They can't BS you as a non-technical person. Not that they're maybe trying to, some maybe, but you can utilize that, lean into it, and maybe you have something that in that technical skill set that they don't know about or they haven't used before. Because we all grow up in this place differently and we have different skills and experiences, and stuff changes constantly. So being able to share ideas, even though you're not a technical person anymore, as long as you don't berate them to do it your way, it should be fun.
All right, that's a great one. And that actually goes back to the point of find something to connect with people over. Guess what you have in common with every one of your techs? Technical background. There's a connection. Even if you have nothing else in common, you have that. All right, we've got like 2 minutes left. You've answered, you've contributed. The person behind you, however, has not.
I have not. Something that you said that I'm taking away from this is say things as many times as it takes. That's changed. 5 years ago, they said you have to say something 7 times to fully sink into somebody. Now it's closer to 30 due to the short retention from reels.
Yep.
You have this 10-second retention rate. So something that I have to, and it's not just the young guys. It's like I have a very diverse team, and it's everybody on my team seems to struggle with this.
We think about how much stuff is vying for our attention and our tech's attention and our team's attention these days. It's infinitely more than even 5 years ago. So that's a very good point. And again, it really comes back to say things as many times as it takes. Even if people are like, oh my God, you've said that 27 times. Yeah, well, 3 more. Exactly. Diversity and communication is so important these days because not everyone learns the same way. And understanding that is very, very critical.
You just go back to Blackboard and have them write it on the board.
All right, Will, you got 20 minutes.
I know, right? All right, let's start over. Here we go. Starting on slide 1. All right, well, guys, thank you all for coming to my session today. Hopefully you've got something you can take back. Hopefully with the discussions you've learned a few things. And thank you again for attending.